All right, a few more questions, and then I'm going to ask some questions that people ask on Twitter. I think aspiring entrepreneurs always ask, and on this journey we've had a lot of people interacting with us, people that want to start their own thing, but they always wonder, what if it doesn't work? What are things for you, projects that you've done that haven't worked? I think people think Chris Brogan, a lot of times all they see is a success, so maybe they don't know that you've tried things that haven't worked. What are they? What'd you learn from them?
I fail all the time. If you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough. Grasshopper New Media went nowhere. I mean, we had great ideas. I had no idea how to make money off of it.
Yeah.
I got a lot of people to work for free with the same idea that maybe we'll figure something out.
Because you had a big group. I mean, it wasn't it was a serious thing.
I had Career Mom Radio, which a bunch of moms who had never podcasted before in their life, all contributing audio for a podcast. One lady submitted audio where she was talking with a fan right next to her. And so every word was like, I was like,
classic.
What did you think? She goes, I figured you could take it out in the editing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, I could. So, yeah. And so that failed. Man on the Go right now is in a really tepid state because I just haven't done enough travel videos and I just don't know what to do with it. But I had to try. I had to think it was going to be interesting.
Yeah.
And I think it'll figure itself out. I have... oh my gosh, what else? Well, Network 2 didn't work. Jeff Pulver and I were too many years early on the idea of internet video just being so vitally important.
Do you think that do you think a lot of the key is just to launch, to try something, and if you fail or if it doesn't work out, like that's the MBA you don't have to go and pay for?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. But the thing is, try and then ask a lot of questions. The other thing entrepreneurs do just so horribly wrong is they do it all in a vacuum. They're like, I've got this totally secret idea and I'm not going to ask anybody anything.
Yeah.
I'm just going to do it in a vacuum. There's that. Ask a lot of questions, then execute. It's amazing. You either get one or the other. They ask 10 million questions and never do anything.
Yeah.
We all know that person. Like, we go to the meetup and they're like, hey, let me ask you something. And they elbow you and they're like, oh my gosh, have we been doing this for like 3 years? But that's the person who launches something that goes crazy because they're like amassing data.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's that, and there's the people who execute and like don't realize that they could have saved themselves a lot of time. Like in 08 and 09, I had that a lot where people would send me their new startup and it would just be exactly some other site. And I'd be like, oh, have you ever seen da-da-da? And I'd be like, oh.
Oh, no.
And there's a scene,
no market research. Yeah.
There's a scene in Knocked Up about that where they're trying to create this video catalog of every porn site and all the naked scenes in every famous
I was actually
movie.
sad when I watched that movie because that was my idea.
Well,
I was like, damn it, they took it.
And so there's that. So I think that it's a one failure point is just launch. The other thing people think is this is going to define me. This will be everything. So it's got to be the most amazing thing in the world. Look at any band. They're made up of 200 other bands,
Yeah.
Dave Grohl didn't start in Nirvana, and he sure didn't end at Nirvana's ending. He made the Foo Fighters, which is by any merit is much more successful than Nirvana.
Yeah.
Number of albums, etc. So I don't know.
What about Risk?
The game? I'm really good.
Yeah, that is.
Don't ever try to take Europe. It's a mess.
Yeah, exactly. Still, I remember in a post you talked about going to conferences, and this is before, the book and all this stuff, and you talked about paying for conferences because it was important to your business out of money that had to go to your mortgage. And that was a choice. It was like a deliberate choice. Would you call that a calculated risk? And is risk just baked into entrepreneurship? That's one thing you have to get over if you're going to do it.
Well, yeah, so you look at the textbook definition of entrepreneur, and it's someone who assumes a risk to achieve a reward. Mm-hmm. And that's the real tiny baseline definition. Because every now and again, I hate the word. I'm only just getting used to using it. And I like, well, no.
Entrepreneur?
I assume risk, so I guess I can call myself that.
Yeah.
But, people think, one side of it is people think I just quit my job one day and said, I think I'll become a consultant. And I just left away the paycheck. But, I have a wife and kids. I don't want to, that's a bad plan. You have to kind of keep food coming in for the babies. So that's when the idea of escape velocity came, because I started saying to people, listen, you got to make a little fund somewhere where you're going to pack up an extra couple $1,000 here and there.
Pam Slim calls it like a side hustle.
She's right.
Yeah.
She's right, because, and Pam Slim, she wrote the book on it, literally. You've got to have that reserve, because if you ever throw your family into that spot where you've only given yourself a 2-month runway, well, then you're going to fail. There's just no question. There's nobody who picks themselves up out of that, scenario, because once your kids and your family is looking at you down the barrel of the gun saying, look, kids are not eating, it's your fault. Well, then you're back at Best Buy or whatever.
Did you feel like at that moment when you're like right on the upswing or whatever, you had to go to these conferences because that's your business, being out and being present. Did you feel that pressure? Was that something like you have to take this risk where a lot of people might not pull the trigger?
Well, so what I had said was to Kat, I said, listen, I know this is going to pay off. I really know it's going to pay off. But if I'm not there, then I won't have those conversations. If I can't talk to somebody and have them see beyond my blog post or see that I'm a real guy in 3D, how I interact in a crowd, et cetera, then it's just not going to matter. You know, and so it was tough. I mean, the time I remember the most, I'd come to Manhattan. I landed at the airport, which is not in Manhattan, it turns out. Jamaica.
Yeah. And you have to pay $100 to get into Manhattan.
So I go to the ATM, I go to get $100 out, nothing happens. And I go to get $20 out, nothing happens. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Take the air train.
So I have like $8 in my pocket, so I can make the train. You know, I mean, I can get the cheap ass train. Like,
3 hour train.
Get over there, but I get there, and like, if there was no food at the conference, I had to eat. You know what I mean? If there was no snack or something, so I'm like the one guy taking the extra oyster crackers back to my room, trying to eat at night.
That's still us. We're just like, it's not
exactly free food.
Yeah.
But I was there, and enough times of being there got me from ramen noodles to 4-star hotels, and I don't. I'm certainly not I'm driving in my Lexus next to my Mercedes. I don't have a rap guy's pedigree of cars in my car.
You mean you're not pouring Cristal out on your family just
I am
for fun?
not, just for fun, no. And I live in this like one room, 955-foot loft. You know what I mean? It's just one big room with walls, fake walls made out of bookshelves. So, I'm not, Tony, what was that guy's name? Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous.
Oh, God, yeah.
The guy.
The guy. That's all you gotta say.
I'm what's his face, and I'm coming.
I know exactly who you're talking.
Well, I'm not him. You know what I mean? Like, I'm certainly not. You're not going to be coming to my crib anytime soon, unless you just want to cry out. So I would say that, that's because I get that from my critics. Like, I'm making plenty more money than I ever used to make. But my critics are all like, no way. He's like, loaded. He lives in like a house in the hills. No. I'm like. I'm like Jay-Z. I'm hood forever.
Yeah.
So, but I'm not. I'm not in Tribeca next to De Niro yet. I would say that. The thing is, you have to take some risk somewhere, but you want to try not to involve your family in that risk. So what I said to them was, there'll be some really skanky times on this journey, but we'll get there. And the way it works now is anything I do. I mean, I have enough streams coming now that if I really wreck something, short of, I don't know, running over a family with a car or like a bus of nuns or something, I'll be okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I could see my business, even if my business got wiped out, I have enough side revenues that would cover the family while I try to rebuild.
Do you think, let me just ask you about that, because you do mention that. Do you think that's key? Do you think everyone at this point, you should really be thinking about residual income from a lot of different areas?
Absolutely.
As opposed to just putting your eggs
Not
in
a question. This guy, Barry Hobson, over in the UK, wrote a book about portfolio career with some co-author, and I feel bad because, you always stiff the co-author. Yeah. And I had never heard the term portfolio career, but it's like that idea of like you incorporated.
Yeah, sure.
Tom Peters talked about it a decade or so ago, and I'm a big Tom Peters fan. And I do that now. I mean, I have stakes in New Marketing Labs and the Pulse Network through my Crosstech Ventures project with the Sabre brothers, and I run Human Business Works, and I have a professional speaking career and a book career. So if I canceled any one of those, I'm still plenty fine. If I canceled all of them but one, like any one of those is at least one salary worth of money. And like most families would be okay with that. But what I ended up doing, because I'm an idiot, is I take the other money that I make and now I'm using it to fund and build new companies.
Right.
So I'm angel investing in myself.
You're really an angel investor,
Right, which is really hard to get a term sheet, and sometimes
who do you give this to? Who approves these things?
Me, the board actually argues with me, the entrepreneur, but it's tricky.
All right, in an interview with Tony Hawk recently, you talked about the difference between personal and corporate branding. Do you think that in this day and age, with as easy as it is to get a personal brand out, that people should be thinking personal brand? Like if you have a product or whatever, attach your name to it, build around that, and then it'll be easier to launch other companies off the back of it.
I think so. And Tony Hawk's an interesting example because his personality begets the brand, his accomplishments as sports beget the brand.
Yeah.
So talking to him was fun because that book is basically saying, no, really, I'm a business as well as a guy.
Yeah.
And I also met Kathy Ireland once, and that was the same problem. She was like, People think just because I'm a supermodel that people just threw money at me and were like, here you go get rich.
Yeah.
And she goes, it's not like that.
She talks about sleeping in airports and stuff like that. Yeah.
She was sleeping in an airport, like, all I kept thinking was supermodel, sleeping in an airport, supermodel.
Exactly.
There should be like 10 bodyguards around her, but she was hustling like anybody. And I mean, her business went up to over $1 billion. I know this because in the little, what do you call the stinger reels or whatever, like they had like 200 different news anchors saying, over $1 billion, over $1 billion. I was just like, crap. Yeah. Took me a while to get over 1 million. I have to work on this billion crap. No, I think with personal branding, it's really important, but you have to really work at it. Like, there's a lot of people who call themselves the whatever. I'm the felt tip pen king, or whatever. Well, that's awesome, except that Oprah didn't call herself the cool weather woman. She was just Oprah,
right.
And she at one point she got to cut her last name off. I mean, guys, once you become AJ,
I'm trying, man. I'm trying so hard in the Google searches.
That's tough, though. You get, Vaynerchuk is there, and
so many.
And there's AJ Bombers, and there's a lot.
But I just think if I go out and snipe them all,
that's right.
I mean, that's the easiest way to do it. Right?
PPC them, I don't know. So I mean, with a brand, your personal brand, what you're aiming to do is it's a promise. It's a realization of what you deliver and who you're going to be. And I work on it a lot still, and it's years later, and it's funny because in some crowds, someone's like, well, if you don't know him, you don't know anything about this space. I'm thinking, I don't want to. That's like being a child actor.
Yeah.
Being well known in social media is as useful as being a child actor.
Right.
Because you don't get any gigs from it.
Yeah, sure.
So I'm looking for how do I get known in other spaces, which is why I do things like write for Entrepreneur Magazine.
Yeah, I've seen that.
That's 180,000 people.
The paper magazine.
Like,
paper? What's that?
It's 180,000 people who didn't know me though.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
I'll take it.
All right. The one question about that, you talked a little bit a while ago, and I forgot when, about keeping yourself out of boxes. Do you think that's important? I mean, talking about personal branding, and you just mentioned it. Should you get so defined that this is what I do, or should you always try to keep you out here and then your projects that you work on kind of in orbit around that?
That's a great question. I think I'll defer to the best personal branding person I ever knew, Madonna. Madonna just launched her new set of gyms, and I just saw her dancing around in Mexico somewhere doing her gyms. And every year on the year, no matter whether or not she needed a brand update, she updated herself. Yeah. And she'd go fully off the other side. Like, here I am doing this soulful music, I'm singing Evita, and then I'm going to go and I'm going to sing dance club grindy kind of music or whatever. And she just did whatever she wanted to do and just kept moving it forward. And she, like 4 minutes, she does with Justin Timberlake, so she tries to like refresh herself with another whole generation, 20 years down the stream. And I think that that's how I look at my stuff. So I look at projects, and more so, like when I launched New Marketing Labs, one of the early offers that we had to buy the company was from somebody who was making sure that I came with it. And I said, see, I made a mistake. So I got to go back and rebrand it. I tell people all the time, the stupidest thing I did was name my website chrisbrogan.com, because I've had 4 different buy offers, pretty good money. I mean, quit your life money, but Maserati money, and can't do it because it's got my name on it.
Yeah, sure.
So like, how's that going to play?
Yeah,
Some other guy being me.
Were they other Chris Brogans?
That's right, the clones.
Yeah, exactly. All right, for aspiring entrepreneurs, if there's that guy or that gal in that cubicle and they want to pivot out and start to do their own thing, because that's what this trip is about, what are 1 or 2 things from your experience that you would say, this is how you can start getting that idea from that napkin or sketchbook to market?
First off, don't be too impatient. From the age of like 22 or so, probably even a little before that, I wanted to take over the earth. And you just don't have all the skills right away. And you can have some early success. My gosh, Jessica Ma is one of the most successul people I've ever met. I met her, I think, when she was 17 or so, or 18. She's 20 now, 17, because she's 20 now. And she's like run and stopped many more businesses than I ever have. When she was like 13, she was running an ISP, and she was getting pulled out of math class, like because the server would go down or something. She had to like fix it and get back into the room. And her parents got mad at her and said, "You got to stop, running a business until you graduate high school." So I mean, it's not that you have to wait to be too old, but you have to be patient even then. I mean, she knew how to be patient and how not to be patient. She knew when to jump and when not to. Yeah. But you have to. I mean, patience is a verb in a lot of ways. You really have to pay on it and make sure. And the reason I say that is because there's better times to jump. And your idea, if you launch it too half-baked, might not work out. Yeah. But now I'm going to give you the opposite advice. launch and be a mess. Be a total utter mess and revise
Just
and
do
fix
it.
it and make it better.
Yeah.
Because, man, I can't tell you how many people told me someday soon they're going to start a web and they're going to have a blog. But I just want to make sure it's perfect first. And I keep thinking, who cares? Like, just put it out there.
Yeah.
And someone asked me, I have this really great post, but I don't have enough traffic. Should I wait a year? Like, yes, you should absolutely wait a year to write this great idea, because I'm sure it'll be right in your head still.
Yeah,
a
sure.
year
Somebody
later.
said that. I forget who it was, but like perfectionism is the cancer of entrepreneurship.
Absolutely. So be patient, be crazy, do both. And I think for third, make networks. I mean, the other thing is it's never too soon to start to get to know people,
Yeah.
and never dismiss anybody. It's amazing how we dismiss two groups more than ever. We dismiss the youth because they're too little to be helpful, and we dismiss the old people because they're has-beens and they only know about from the 80s or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
My two favorite groups, the youth and the old people, because on the youth, then little bloggers grow up, which is what Liz Strauss taught me.
Yeah.
And on the other side, I mean, man, a guy like Tom Peters, who just released the book Little Big Things, it's not like he's on a shelf turning dusty somewhere.
Yeah, sure.
But he was huge in the late 80s and he was super huge in the 90s. And then people kind of go, oh yeah, but that was then. All his ideas still
Still doing
resonate.
his thing.